Hello, namaskar, it's me Rajesh Dionan. It's around 10 to 1 p.m. It's Wednesday the 24th of January 2024. We're going into the new year. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the single life and the life of yoga, living the life of yoga. They say Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he says that the single life is a good life if you want to do intense or real spiritual work, right? It means that it's not as a flippy floppy type of work. You go to church once a week, you fast on vegetables once a week. It's not like that. Serious spiritual business is making spirituality a way of life. Why? To experience the divine, to see the angels, the deities, the devatas, to have mystical experiences, to see, open the third eye, the trikoti, and to have mystical friends, and also for the health of your body, your mind, and spirit. People do follow the spiritual life in certain countries to a very dedicated and sincere level, though in some places it degenerates into fanaticism, into radicalism, and so on. But really, spirituality, some people say you can go gradually. Like, when a green seed, a green nut, like we have a walnut, when it's green, you tap the shell, it wouldn't break. But when it ripes, a gentle tap and it will break open. So we have immediate realization and gradual realization. Dogen, the Zen master, he taught gradual realization through the process of Soto Zen, watching the breath as it go in and out, in and out, in and out, which he learned from China. While people like Rinzai Zen, Lin Chi, he said immediate realization. He tries to push the disciple for immediate realization. He was a kind of extreme fellow. You see photograph with him, his eye is bulging, fierce look. Like Padmasambhava and some of these tantric masters, they try to push you fast enlightenment. But some teachers say those who go slow, they were going surely and surely. Some people start out, they're very lustful, they like to eat, they like to drink, and gradually as time passes, they give up little bit by little bit. But some people, they just give up right away, immediately they just throw the towel on the shoulder and walk off. So we have the gradual method and the immediate method. And one of the immediate methods is like chastity. People who start spirituality from a young age, like 14, 15. I started at around 15 years old while I was at the Indians Education Trust College there. I started when I was 15. Studying by myself, learning from books until I met my teacher. So I got books from my grandfather. He had a lot of Sivananda books, Bharat Sivasaram books. I also bought some from the GNTC in Camp Street. So what happened is that most of the tenets were given by the great saints from India in Divine Life Society books. He wrote very high standard, so I tried to reach those standards. So when I met my teacher from another organization, it was easy to just slip in because I already adopted some of the habits there already. Just that I had to switch the methods of meditating, and so on. So some people who want to live a single life, right? It's not so very easy because the majority of people, they're in the flow of nature. The nature, even the bees and the birds, they get married and they are seen pairs and together, right? Anywhere you see is pairs. That's the law of nature. But spirituality, real, genuine, high spirituality means going beyond nature. Nature controls us. We get sick, we die. When it's cold, we feel cold. When it's hungry, we eat, we feel go and eat. All these are natural laws, right? But to transcend these laws, We have to become spiritual, meaning we live in the spirit. It's an adjective describing the spirit. We're spiritual. We're, identified with the spirit. So we learn to go beyond the laws of nature, and we have to gradually do it. We learn to control the five elements also. But one of the greatest challenge on the spiritual path is living the single life, because sometimes you're alone, though we're never alone or helpless. The force that guides the star guides you also, Shushyana Namotiji. People feel alone, right? Because they can't see the invisible helpers. They're not people in their community or their neighborhood or their nationality who are sensitive to spirituality or spiritually sympathetic. So the spiritual beginner is like a lone traveler. He embarks and practices by himself without supportive environment, without supportive friends, colleagues, culture, and so he is like fighting against the flow of the ocean tide, which is rushing in on him, strong waves and power. So he's like moving against those waves and swimming against those tide. So it's like an uphill climb, as some masters say. The nature is taking everybody to dissolution. The body disappears, the body decays. Sri Aurobindo, in one of his letters of yoga, he said even the great magnetic personality like Shakespeare, Napoleon, and some of the great names he mentioned there, he said they were material people, but they had great psychic and mental development. And he said when their work is finished, they will just dissolve into nothing and just finish. That's the nature of the earthbound beings and peoples who have more inclination to the physical plane. They dissolve into the physical earth, the element. From earth we came and to earth we return. But beyond the physical, there are super causal, what they call higher planes of existence, in which we can go after that. We don't choose to be bound or have our spirit roaming on the earth after death. We can visit higher planes and meet higher beings, have other experiences which will enrich us, nurture us, with this kind of contact, supersensual contacts, which we can't find on the earth plane. We can't find these beings unless we learn to do higher meditation and so on. So one of the pitfalls in the spiritual path is living this single life. People fear that when they're sick, who will take care of them? They don't have anybody, company, who can support them or help them, So we have some yogis that do, in the initial stage, they do take partners, companionships. Though Baba said most of the classical yoga, the old yoga way is that juniors who are desirous of benefiting from the teacher's energy, from his austerity, they can form an association as a helper, as a friend, as a devotee, or as a student, While the yogi, during his practice, if he need partnership, he usually partners off with male colleagues, like in a sangha, if he's a monk, or if he's married, he has a wife and family. And usually if the wife is a yogini also, it is helpful for his deeper emotional needs and spiritual needs. If you have a partner who is like in the mundane level, in the physical and sensual level, right? You cannot correspond or communicate properly because that person will be in an offshore, an off limb, out on a limb, like will be on an offshoot where a divergence, a detour, and they will be partaking of comfort and amenities in that restroom, in that offshoot or off limb. So what happened is that you going on the path there and you develop various qualities, you have various experiences and sensitivities about that travel, that journey. So having a partner alongside you who can understand and even help you to show you one step higher is sometimes blessings for some yogis, but Shushana Murtiji, for example, says if you want to remain single, you have to do a lot of hard work, dedicate yourself to some hard service to humanity. You have to do a lot of, sadhana, a lot of meditation, a lot of karma yoga, and so on. That's why people ask me why you do so much work, why you do. It's the balance, you can't do meditation all the time. You'll become too much mental, too much abstracted from the physical plane. You have to learn to balance the physical and mental. But if you're going towards that direction, like which Europe and America is now aiming towards, develop, have spirituality taught in schools and in communities. They're now erecting statues of saints and holy men from the Asia and so on, like Ramakrishna, all the statues erected now in America or somewhere like that. So what happens is the whole social setting will have to start changing. People have to become more conscious about the yamas and niyamas, the ethical side of social reality of social living. And in this way, by developing the ethics, the mind can become still, the body can become prepared for you to think, for you to become rational. And so that's the fundamentals of spirituality, that having a proper social environment, dignified interaction, a dignified culture which people can live and progress and so on and coexist properly. So now back on the situation of partnership in yoga. Many yogis, they have spiritual partners. Like Sri Aurobindo, his spiritual partner was Mira Alfonso Alfaisa from France. He was an Indian, but she came all the way. People say every Krishna has his Radha. Some people say Sai Baba. Some people said every master has a Radha. Swami Sivananda Radha. She said she was a Radha of Sivananda, though he remained aloof and single throughout his life. Satya Sai Baba also remained aloof and single. Shirdi Sai single. Swamiji Shiva Balayogi single. So some of them had dharma patnis, some of them had partners in their personal sanctum, the sanctum. In the personal quarters and so they had people who were working with them and giving them companionship. So the lonely yogi is very popular. They live in caves, they live on the icy snows, they live like a madman. Sometimes Ramakrishna said he saw one day a madman eating out of a garbage bin. Only thing, it wasn't a madman, it was a Paramahansa, a saint, a highly elevated saint. In the Vidya Mukta stage, there's a Jivan Mukta state in which you're liberated while alive, where you maintain an ego, an identity to operate in the physical world. While in the Vidya Mukta state, you relinquish that ego to operate in the physical world and you become a Vidya Mukti or like a childlike state, So partnership in the spiritual plane is a very challenging, because today if you have a male companion or if you have male friends or co-workers in the spiritual field, people start to accuse you of sexual misbehavior, misconduct. Why can two men share a straight, share a happy togetherness? This is possible, but the mind has to be prepared, the environment, the culture has to be there. Only then people cannot understand this kind of clean relationship because of the social settings of their own culture and their own environment and so on. So these things are like foreign to them, are like a kind of dream, a kind of fiction, science fiction, but it's possible, like male and female living like brothers and sisters, you know. They say this is possible, like in Indian culture, they say most of the monks and the nuns, they live like brothers and sisters, while in the other communities and culture, they cannot. The intervention of body consciousness, of the loss and so on, affects and intervenes and prevents a smooth operation in a social plane. So in these cases in the West, most male partners are females and most mystics are female partners. We see the problem with Rasputin when his friends were females, what happened and so on. And many of the monks who are female serving them, female servants, like in, I know some Muslim mystics right here in Guyana. He was such a big mystic, and all his girl servants he had dressed in their tops and their masks and their gongs and so on. So what happened is that the ideal setting is that to have a good friend, to have a colleague who you can interact with, but these are not possible, so you may have to go alone. Like comes to mind Katirio Tekatiwata in the Catholic Church. She was alone, but she did penance and did a lot of work by herself, and her partner was eventually a simple girl who was admiring the benefits she was getting, how she was living, and start to live the same life also. But it's hard also when you have people at such a low plane, they don't understand you, and they express all of these appetites, these physical appetites and craving, which they are proud of, or which, like very physical or vital men, sometimes you wonder that, the proper environment is necessary for spiritual practice, the proper community, should we escape into ashrams, communities, go up in the mountains and so on. But another Murti, another Mark says, establish a proper environment right here so that everybody can have a glimpse of the spiritual light and be motivated to make spirituality their daily life. So one of the aims is to make the world a better world. And this idea about having company and good practices to have the ideal government which promotes spirituality, and like what they say, the Rama Raja, Raja Ram, the ideal king, philosopher king, like Plato would say, to have an ideal king so that the subjects can live at a higher state of consciousness and awareness. Life is not just about physical existence, but they are also mental, emotional, and spiritual development. If the emotion and spirit are constricted, we have problem of expressing ourselves, of living with ourselves, of being creative, poetic, of being beautiful beings, So we do want to live the spiritual life, and sometimes if you read a book by Sri Chenmoy, why spiritual masters do not mix, you will have a very deep idea or insight into the nature of spiritual people, In fact, Abraham Maslow, he was saying the forefront is humanity. Are those people who are able to concentrate deeply, they are free from anxiety and all these narrow-minded tendency that everyday people have, and these people, they usually are dedicated to some mission, some selfless work, or some lofty project in life. So Maslow defines the mystic as belonging to one of these mystic as being one of these people who are the forefront of evolution. So it's not a lonely journey to feel alone, that you're going alone, you'll be having experiences that no one can relate to. People used to accuse Sri Aurobindo that he rose so high up that he cannot communicate with ordinary humans being anymore because he was at such a high plane. He cannot come down back again, But some yogis, they can go up and they can come down, And when they down there and they live at that down level, people identify them with the lower emotions that they have to use to communicate. But they can also go up when they're in the proper company or the other different categories of people to communicate at that level also. One example is the Saint Germain, the Count of Saint Germain. He's famous of socializing with the higher class of Europe. You know, he is a Portuguese mystic who visited India and learned from India also. Alchemy, spiritual alchemy, I think, was from South India, and they say he's still alive in Europe. The Count of Saint Germain, the man who does not die. He's probably a couple thousand years old, and people have been seeing him around Europe from time to time. And he's very good at all level of society. He can blend and mix with people, and he can fit in. He speaks the language of the people that he has to meet and interact with, you know. So it can be a lonely journey. I don't know, some yogis, they are alone, they live in caves, they live by themselves. While you have another type of yogi, they have partners, they live in communities, they live among families with their brother, mother, father, sisters, you know. But most of them, they are kind of independent people. They have good control over themselves and they're well established. Those are the higher categories of yogis, the established one, what they call the adepts. The adepts are people who are established in higher meditation, higher state of being and consciousness and so on. So this is my ideas about living this spiritual life as a singular, bachelor, or as married, or so on, you know. In fact, again, I remember Sri Yukteswar, who said those who are single, they are unmarried, they cared for the things of God, and those who are married, they cared for the things of the world. He who gives God second place gives him no place at all, right? So I remember when this professor was searching for this great Bengali Saint Ramakrishna Paramhansa. He heard so much his name was spreading all over in Bengal. There, people saying there's a great soul is there living, and you should go to visit him. It will do good for your self, you know. So he went and he visited Paramahansa Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna asked him, he said, "Are you married?" He said, "Yes, sir, I'm married." And then Ramakrishna turned to his disciple. He said, "Alas, he's married." So this kind of struck me as being single and having advantages, its own advantage, you know. So it's can't another mark whether you're married or single, it doesn't matter, right? He said if you're married, it's the Guru's grace that counts. He can help you and he can gives you your own quota, your own blessings, and so on, your own share, you know. So it doesn't, though some groups argue that the single life, like the Brahma Kumari, the Prajapati, follower of Prajapati Brahma, Prajapata Brahma, they're saying that the single life is important. You should work, try to get little bit by little bit into that kind of life, you know. Some most yogis like that, they say the single life is best. Some said you should have companies and servants and live in a household life like Raja Janak and so on. But all in all, the importance of living the spiritual life has been demonstrated throughout Asia, you know, like in Tibet and China. They have young boys entering the monastery at very young age. Some leave as they become 25 years and they gain all the knowledge and maturity and stability. They enter into the world, marry and lead a social life, while others choose to remain behind and be a monk forever, right? So we have, they call the those who remain single forever. In the Vedic language, they refer to it as Naistika Brahmachari, while those who practice Brahmachari in the married life or continence in the married life has another name. I forget the name of it. Another kind of brahmacharya. Then you have the other type who broke his brahmacharya before and was living a lustful and sinful life, and then he stopped that and he changed and become a single yogi and a celibate yogi and so on, and so it's an interesting subject how yogis live their life. Sometimes they're single, sometimes they're married, sometimes they're in family, sometimes they're on the street like beggars. You don't know. People think some of them are madmen, but I think right here in Guyana we don't have any such, because one Filipino monk was telling me he's traveled throughout Guyana and he didn't find one spiritually elevated person we can say is spiritual, So I guess we have to do a lot of work in preparing the social environment for the descent of the higher mind, descent of the supramental mind in the word of Sri Aurobindo. And we have to prepare a lot. Depends on the Chinese say feng shui, creating the proper architecture, buildings, the streets, and the names of the streets, and the kind of trees to plant, and how to put the house and the buildings. All these are sciences by itself also that give rise and stimulate the mind, the spirit, the soul into higher functionality. But these are sciences that have been there in the East, probably in Europe also. They also, because I see there also the schools like Feng Shui are becoming popular, and people are following those beliefs and system. So let's see if we will move in those direction for betterment of body, mind, and spirit. Namaskar.